And then for our final speaker of today,
Yeah.
Ville from Houston Inc.
Okay, hello, my name is Ville Saukkonen and I'm gonna talk about dynamic web applications today for you. How many of you are developers and especially front-end developers? Not too many, so I try to keep this easy, but it might be also quite hard. So let's begin. My objective today is to tell you something about what we do currently in our project, just briefly, and about some quite cutting-edge JavaScript frameworks what we are using in our project. Okay, so we are doing this Sanoma customership project, so it's centralized place to manage all your subscriptions and stuff at Sanoma. Many of you probably know that, I guess. And well, little by little, more and more of Sanoma services should be integrated into that. That's about it. Well, so what we are using in our project is quite modern technologies like React, Flexible Stylus, Grunt, and Node.js. And those are basically, okay, there is some Java, but I don't gonna talk about it because it's quite boring. And well, most of those are quite young and new cutting-edge technologies, and it's been quite interesting to use them and see how it works in real project. And well, let's begin with React. So React is a JavaScript library to render a HTML into your browser, and it's made by Facebook, and Facebook is using it quite a lot, for example in its messenger and well all around in its website. And the thing is that you make components which represent a part of your application, like for example chat box and stuff like that. People are getting bored. Well, yeah, it's getting late. Yeah, okay, but anyways, it's kind of embedding HTML into your JavaScript, and the thing is that React renders those things super fast, so it calculates that there is a virtual DOM what it uses. So there is in JavaScript there is a presentation of all your HTML structure of your site, and it compares that to real HTML into your site, and it calculates all the differences and then spits out the minimum amount of changes what it has to do, for example to pop out a new message into your window. So that's basically what virtual DOM does. And React is mostly just about the view, so it doesn't handle logic so much, but just the view. So it gets a state in. So for example, a new message, and its only job is to render that message for you. So any other part of your applications, like communicating with your server and stuff like that, is done somewhere else. So it's a quite specific piece of technology. And there is an interesting way to do it, because React is not actually only JavaScript, but they have own kind of domain-specific language made for it. So you can actually write HTML in middle of your JavaScript. Well, other way around, but it used to was when you write JavaScript into HTML. But it's interesting because you have the view-related logic really near into your HTML and presentation of your page. So it's quite handy way to do changes in your presentation. And well, that's quite much about React. I wonder if I have something else to tell about it. Well, I could have some code examples, but I didn't have time to put them there. And there is also this Flux. I put this label in the brackets because Flux is the architecture what we are using. So it's all about one-way data binding. So for example, if you think about Angular.js, if someone has heard about that, it's kind of two-way data binding. So data goes in both directions, from your controller to your view and from your view to controller. But this is doing it a bit differently. So for example, if we could start from views when for example you write down something into your input, it triggers an on-change event about that, and it is saved in the state of the component, so it renders it again. For example, if you write down something like pop-up new element for me, it handles that and it does it like updating itself by rotating. And for example, if you want to do something like a REST API call to server, there is a specified event system for that. So the view component kind of dispatches an event but doesn't handle anything else. It just renders the thing and dispatches an event. So the event is then catch up by actions, or actually and the actions does the actual call to server and fetches the data, and then is triggered another event again, which basically goes to the specific store, which is for keeping the actual data of your applications in one place. And the store listens to these kind of events what is triggered by actions, and when the data comes to store, you can manipulate that, for example, +1 to something or anything like that, and it stores that data in it and triggers again an event, and after that the React component is listening to that, for example, or event, and then it knows that, hey, okay, I got this event from the store, there's probably new data coming to me, I should grab it from the store. So it goes to get that data from store as a state, and well, then it again have the new data, and it does it trick and render a new view, or I mean new version of the view again. So that's in super nutshell the Flux architecture. And the Fluxible what we are using is well, it follows this kind of architecture with one-way data flow, but there is a one catch in it. So it's basically not just a browser, but it's also running on the server side also, which is quite fancy new technology in a way, but so we don't have to duplicate the actual logic between browser and the server, but the same code runs both on browser and the server. So that's isomorphism, the keyword there. So this is basically what oh man, I didn't know this shuts down. Okay, let's continue. Maybe I talked too much about that. Okay, go again. Well, this isomorphism thing is that the same code base is run in browser and in server. So there's no need for duplicate, for example, validations between browser and server or stuff like that. So we have Node.js server running, and so it runs JavaScript in server also. So when, for example, request comes to our server, there is the Flux application starts there and basically renders all the applications for the user. So in normal single page applications, only the front end renders the JavaScript and it communicates between server with the REST API calls, but this is a bit different because this can also spit out HTML and stuff like that if you don't have, for example, JavaScript support in your browser, which is quite weird. But but yeah, so in normal single page applications you would have something like a REST API between server and browser, but in this case it's kind of abstracted away, so you don't have to worry so much which part of the applications is running in the server and which part of applications is running in the browser. So Flexible is made by Yahoo, and it's been quite interesting to learn how it works, but after getting into it, I guess it's quite interesting way to do modern web applications, and it's getting users all the time more. And what about the styles then? Well, we are using Stylus. It's a preprocessor for CSS, so we can manage our styles, for example, put them in files, and we don't have to repeat ourselves so much when doing those styles. So Stylus is something like, for example, less and sus and stuff like that, but a bit, well, almost the same stuff than them, but made by different people. And BEM is the way we kind of write our CSS, so it's more like way to write CSS and, well, stylus specific CSS also. So there is a kind of, it comes from words block, element, and modifier. So there's blocks, for example, a link, and then there is an element, which means, for example, container for those links. So it's kind of in a way same kind of thing that atomic CSS, I mean atomic design. For example, you have minimum piece of HTML and CSS, and then you kind of expand those into real elements, what you can then place into your web page straight away. So, I mean, for example, navigation. There is links, then there is a navigation panel which includes those links, and you can repeat these kind of CSS styling in many places. I mean, you don't have to repeat the CSS, but you can just take the HTML and you can use them straight away. So it takes away a lot of custom CSS from us. And one way to illustrate this is to this kind of style guide driven development, what we are doing. So we first do our every element into specific style guide, what is free to use all of us in our project. So we have all our forms there and stuff like that. So and for example, headers and input boxes and buttons and stuff like that done in there. So we can just grab the HTML and put it there and use the same styles, and it basically works everywhere. And it's been quite interesting because we just started a new phase in our project, and we kind of started it from scratch. And this style guide has bring a lot of speed in our project, because we didn't have to do any of our styles again. We just have to drop our elements there, and it basically works out of the box. And if you stick in this, you can really enhance your speed in doing, well, similar looking but different new services. And well, I said that I don't gonna, we have a Java backend there, it's Spring and stuff, but I guess Java is not very interesting anymore because we have this fancy JavaScript stuff also, so I don't go into that anymore. And well, wrapping up, does it work? For example, these super new technologies what we are using, there has been problems. For example, documentation, sometimes it's lacking, and sometimes there is some bugs because, well, the technologies are new, but when you really get into those, it quite gives because it's quite interesting to, well, especially learn new technologies. So as a developer, it's interesting to do with new stuff and so on. And because, for example, our tech stack is made by Facebook and Yahoo and these big players in the field, so it's we basically can trust these even though they are super new technologies because they are using them by themselves, so they are getting new features and so on all the time. So I guess it haven't been too bad idea to jump in the train with cutting edge technologies anymore. As a first, when I joined the project, I was quite lost because I didn't understand anything about React and Flexible and stuff like that. But after I learned those, it's been fun. And that's about it. Thank you.
Any questions?
Did they ever make it back first?
What?
Did they make it back home?
Those guys, I'm not sure. I didn't prepare for that question especially, so I'm not sure.
It's Apollo 13, so yes, they made it home.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
It's on your company website.
Yeah.
Okay. Then another round of applause for Ville. Next episode for SaKE will be August 17th in Hoofddorp. So hope you will join. Well, thank you for coming. After party is in Painobari, so if you still want to have a beer with us, come there. And see you next time.